Raging Bull, scene one, take one.
Gotta say it slowly because I can't believe that another year has already passed. It was March 2020, I blinked and here we are. And it's been another challenging year, but one that has seen some great performances from some of the top investment companies in the industry. And that's exactly why we are here, because this is the 2022 Raging Bull Awards. My name is Lance Witten and I will be your host for today. Now, of course, as a result of the dreaded you-know-what, we had to observe certain restrictions in terms of public gatherings and physical distancing. So we did this event virtually last year. And, we were kind of hoping it would be a one-off kind of thing, but unfortunately, we've had to do it again this year. But that doesn't take away any of the shine of the achievements of these investment companies. Now, speaking of top achievements, let's take a look at some South Africans that are making waves around the world over the last 12 months.
Before we announce the Raging Bull winners for this year, let's take a look at some of the other South African achievers who have been recognized over the last 12 months. On the sporting front, Tatjana Schoenmaker won the gold medal and set a world record in the 200-meter breaststroke and also won silver in the 100-meter breaststroke at the 2020 Olympics. Ntando Mahlangu won the gold medal in both the men's long jump T63 and the men's 200 meters T61 events at the Paralympics. And turning to two-wheeled sports, local boy Brad Binder won an unforgettable Austrian MotoGP in front of a capacity crowd of 86,000 supporters. Moving to the entertainment world, one of our favorite sons, Trevor Noah, added the hosting of the 2021 Grammy Awards to his quiver of accomplishments. And the unforgettable local production My Octopus Teacher grabbed the Oscar for Best Documentary of the Year, one of a multitude of awards it would receive. Closer to home, jazz legend Abdullah Ibrahim deservedly received honorary doctorates from the University of Pretoria. Cape Town-born chef Jean Delport was awarded his second Michelin star for Interlude, his restaurant in the UK. There was an award with a difference for Journey's End Vineyards, situated in the Helderberg Basin. They were named Ethical Company of the Year at the Drinks Business Greens Award 2020. And finally, how exciting is it to receive an award for just being cool? That's the case with 7th Street, Melville, Johannesburg, and Main Road, Cork Bay in Cape Town.
I have to say, I'm a little disappointed that I didn't see my name up there, but you know what? That's not why we're here. We are here for the Raging Bull Awards 2022. But what are the Raging Bull Awards all about? Well, in 1997, personal finance founding editor Bruce Cameron thought it'd be a great idea to recognize some of the top performing funds as well as the most consistent performing funds. The idea here was to provide investors with a guide to good, sustainable funds that investors could invest in with confidence and not too much risk. Thus, the Raging Bull Awards were born. Now, the awards remain as coveted as ever, as there are over 1,000 unit trust funds available, and the Roll of Honor belongs to a select few funds and managers who have proven their abilities over longer periods of time. These are the funds that investors can choose with confidence. Testimony to how revered and sought after the Raging Bull Awards are is the fact that we are in our 26th year and they remain as prestigious as ever. So now I would like to bring in someone who knows far more about the Raging Bull Awards than I could ever, and that is Martin Hess. He is the editor of Personal Finance magazine. Martin, good day and welcome.
Hi, Lance. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Thanks so much. So, 2021 for most people was another terrible, terrible year. But for the investment industry, not so much. Martin, would you mind just taking us through a brief overview of what the past 12 months were like?
Well, in fact, for the investment industry, it was amazing. The JSE did extremely well. In fact, it broke all records, going from around about 59,000 points at the end of 2020 to over 73,000 points by the end of the year. So that's up 24% over the year, and that's the best year it's had since 2009, the year after the great financial crisis of 2008.
It's very interesting because, if you think about it and how everyone's lives were affected, and I'm sure those of us watching would have had some experience with this, 2020 was not a great year, but the markets recovered a lot quicker than most other industries.
Well, the markets generally bounce back much quicker than economies do. But there were two big factors driving the markets last year, and that was the economic stimulus or financial stimulus that the central banks had been pumping into, especially the USA, through lowering interest rates and through what's called quantitative easing, which is essentially printing money. And all that money a lot of it went into the stock markets. Here we didn't do quantitative easing, but the interest rates were extremely low. And so that had a big effect.
Sorry, Martin, I'm sure that when I hear about quantitative easing, the printing money, I'd like to do that. Can somebody do that for me? Like just do some quantitative easing in my own bank account. I'll send you the details later.
There was a big demand for resources, which is all mainly the mining companies, and in fact. All sectors on the JSE did very well, but the best performances came from resources shares, which were up 32.4%, and the financial sector, which is the banks, which didn't have such a good year the previous year, but they bounced back pretty well, and they were up 29.6%. But in fact, all sectors performed well, and there wasn't any sector that didn't. Listed property was up 36.9%, but that was also off a low base. Looking at the other asset classes, we had local bonds, which returned 8.4%. Cash was only 3.5%. Those are your cash investments, like putting your money in the bank. Which was quite a lot lower than inflation, so you weren't making any real return from those sort of investments. Inflation, unfortunately, was pushing up in the second half of last year.
Still within the target range, though?
Well, only just, because it was 5.9% by December, which is just inside their 3 to 6%, the Reserve Bank's 3 to 6% range.
Martin, if we look at the global markets, how are the global markets performing compared to the JSE?
Well, also extremely well. The MSCI World Index was up 33.3% in rands and 22.4% in US dollars. And the thing is, if you were invested offshore in, say, the big global tech stocks, you actually got the benefit of that good performance of the stocks themselves, plus the weaker rand in the second half of the year, which added to your performance in rands.
Let's talk a little bit about the rand-dollar exchange rate, because I think, and I'm sure most of us watching will have paid close attention to what the rand is doing to the dollar. So what was the rand performing like throughout the year of 2021? Where did it start? Where did it finish?
It started at 14.59 to the dollar. It strengthened through to June. It was 13.35 to the dollar in June, but then it gradually weakened. So by the end of the year, we were looking at just under 16 rand to the dollar.
All right, well, great. Thank you very much. Martin Hess, the editor of Personal Finance Magazine, will bring you back for the awards. But now I would like to talk about our sponsors for a little bit. And an event like this could not happen without them. Now, it gives me great pleasure to invite Dr. Leila Fourie, who is the Chief Executive of the JSE, to say a few words.
Hi everyone, it's a great privilege for me to be back with you once again this year. The Raging Bull Awards have been acknowledging and honoring top investment managers in the country since their inception in 1997. Today, in their 26th edition, they have rightfully become the industry's Oscars, a highly sought-after accolade and marker of excellence, as well as a spotlight on a vital component of the investment ecosystem. Investment drives growth. All of you know that. But there needs to be trade. Trade activity, hedging, and speculation provide fuel for the engine that drives the economy. But like all highly complex industries, nothing good can be achieved without a deep understanding of the fundamentals. Investment creates prosperity, both for the investor as well as the organization that has raised capital. It happens through careful analysis, consistently developed skills, and institutional knowledge. Today, we recognize precisely that. The Raging Bulls were created to highlight and celebrate fund managers who have delivered positive, sustainable performance. Testimony to the importance of what you do is evidenced by the growth of the unit trusts since inception. Another testament is the market itself. At the height of this country's lockdown, the second quarter of 2020, South Africans invested 88 billion into local unit trusts. It was the biggest net quarterly inflow to date. Most of this went into the money market, the most conservative investment vehicle after midterm fixed deposit bank accounts. But it's also important to know that unit trusts with exposure to South African government bonds also attracted billions in new investments. 2021 was an extremely good year for South African fund managers. Of the 1,207 South African unit trusts on Morningstar, excluding money market funds, only 6 delivered negative return for the year to the end of November. The JSE is often seen as the lightning rod for sentiment, local and international, because money has neither conscience nor loyalty, as British lawyer Robert Kyriakides once said. In the US, the S&P 500 finished at an all-time high. By comparison, here in South Africa, the mid-cap index ended up 25%, while the small-cap index ended the year up 51%, ahead of the top 40, which itself was up 21%. These figures unequivocally illustrate the strength and resilience of the South African market. There are other important figures for us to consider as well, like the fact that the market capitalization of the JSE equity market has grown at 15% a year since 2018. It's a totally different picture from the South African actual GDP, which grew at 1.5% in 2018, 0.1% in 2019, and then shed 6.4% in 2020. The JSE's market capitalization today is just under 19.5 trillion, a growth of 35 times since the dawn of the millennium. The JSE's market capitalization today is just under 19.5 trillion, a growth of 35 times since the dawn of the millennium. It's important to reflect on that point in a country where the narrative and popular sentiment would often suggest otherwise. Indeed, we don't function like an emerging market, but rather a developed market. And that's double good news, the best of both worlds. This doesn't mean that we don't have our share of challenges. The findings of the first installment of the three-part Zondo report are as compelling as they are chilling. The ravages of COVID-19 and our efforts to try to counter it have revealed both the true extent of the inequality in this country and the challenges that lie ahead. That being said, the integrity of our key institutions, both public and private, has held up throughout a very challenging period for our nation. When I speak to investors, both locally and abroad, I'm always encouraged by their faith in the fundamentals of this country and the incredible potential of its resources and its people. You are a large part of that trust and the success that's flown from it. Just as South Africa is blessed with world-class scientists at the forefront of fighting the pandemic, so too does this country have one of the finest investment sectors internationally. The best of you are, without any shred of a doubt, world-class. The South African investment sector is trailblazing in many ways, with an institutional knowledge and professionalism that is quite correctly globally admired. It's a great pleasure to be with you once again on this august occasion, recognizing and rewarding the very best among you. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much to Dr. Leila Fourie, the Chief Executive of the JSE, and thanks very much to Martin Hesse, who is the editor of Personal Finance Magazine. We'll bring Martin back in a little bit. Now, let's get down to business. It's time to award the certificates for the Raging Bulls 2022. A strong performance over 3 years. Domestic funds. Best South African Equity Resources Fund, Sanlam Investment Management Resources Fund. Best South African Equity Mid and Small Cap Fund, Coronation Smaller Companies Fund. Best South African Multi-Asset Flexible Fund, Centaur BCI Flexible Fund. Best South African Multi-Asset Low Equity Fund, ABSA Smart Alpha Defensive Fund. Best South African Multi-Asset Medium Equity Fund, Southern Charter BCI Balanced Fund of Funds. Best South African Multi-Asset High Equity Fund, Emperor IP Balanced Fund. Best South African Multi-Asset Income Fund, Saffron SCI Active Bond Fund. Best South African Interest-Bearing Short-Term Fund, Truffle SCI Income Plus Fund. Best South African Interest-Bearing Variable Term Fund, ABSA Bond Fund. Best South African Real Estate Fund, Harvard House BCI Property Fund. South African Domiciled Global and Worldwide Funds. Best South African Domiciled Global Multi-Asset Flexible Fund, PSG Wealth Global Flexible Feeder Fund. Best South African Domiciled Worldwide Multi-Asset Flexible Fund, Naviga BCI Worldwide Flexible Fund. Offshore Funds. Best FSCA Approved Offshore Europe Equity General Fund, Stanlib European Equity Fund. Best FSCA Approved Offshore United States Equity General Fund, Franklin US Opportunities Fund. Best FSCA Approved Offshore Far East Equity General Fund, Schroeder International Selection Fund All China Equity. Best FSCA Approved Offshore Global Fixed Interest Bond Fund, Allan Gray Africa Bond Fund. Best FSCA Approved Offshore Global Real Estate General Fund, Rightway Enhanced Global Property Fund. For risk-adjusted performance over 5 years, domestic funds. Best South African Multi-Asset Low Equity Fund on a risk-adjusted basis, Amplify SCI Wealth Protector Fund. Best South African Multi-Asset Medium Equity Fund on a risk-adjusted basis, Southern Charter BCI Balanced Fund of Funds. Best South African Multi-Asset High Equity Fund on a risk-adjusted basis, Griffin Prudential Fund. Best South African Multi-Asset Income Fund on a risk-adjusted basis, Sasfin BCI Flexible Income Fund. Best South African Interest-Bearing Short-Term Fund on a risk-adjusted basis, PSG Income Fund. Best South African Interest-Bearing Variable Term Fund on a risk-adjusted basis, ABSA Bond Fund. Best South African Real Estate Fund on a risk-adjusted basis, Harvard House BCI Property Fund. South African domiciled global and worldwide funds. Best South African domiciled Global Equity General Fund on a risk-adjusted basis, Blue Alpha BCI Global Equity Fund. Best South African domiciled Global Multi-Asset Low Equity Fund on a risk-adjusted basis, M&G Global Inflation Plus Feeder Fund. Best South African domiciled Global Multi-Asset High Equity Fund on a risk-adjusted basis, Stanlib Global Balanced Feeder Fund. Best South African domiciled Global Multi-Asset Flexible Fund on a risk-adjusted basis, MyPlan IP Global Macro Fund. Best South African domiciled Global Real Estate Fund on a risk-adjusted basis, Rightway BCI Global Property Feeder Fund. Best South African domiciled Worldwide Multi-Asset Flexible Fund on a risk-adjusted basis, Select BCI Worldwide Flexible Fund. Congratulations once again to our certificate winners. And now we go to our very prestigious Raging Bull trophies. And for this purpose, I've welcomed back to the set Mr. Martin Hesse, who is the editor of Personal Finance. Of course, we don't want to get this wrong. We have the award winners right in front of us on these sheets of paper. So, the straight performance over 3 years to the end of 2021. The Best South African Equity General Fund. The award goes to
the Counterpoint SCI Value Fund. This fund from Cape Town-based boutique manager Counterpoint Asset Management is managed by Piet Viljoen, and it's averaged 23.9% a year over the last 3 years for its investors.
The Best South African Interest-Bearing Fund, the Raging Bull Award, goes to
the ABSA Bond Fund. This is the second win in a row for this fund, managed by James Turp. The fund has returned an average of 10.3% a year over the last 3 years.
The Best South African Domiciled Global Equity General Fund, the Raging Bull, goes to
the Signia FANG Plus Equity Fund. FANG stands for, or it's an acronym, for Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. Those are the big tech stocks. The trouble is now we've got Facebook has now become Meta, and we've got Google, which has now become Alphabet. So I think they're going to have to change the name of their fund.
For the Best FSCA-approved Offshore Global Equity Fund, the Raging Bull Award goes to
the Bailey Gifford Worldwide Long-Term Global Growth Fund. Bailey Gifford must be one of the oldest investment companies in the business. It was founded in Edinburgh in 1908, so it's over 100 years old, and it now has offices globally. In US dollars, this fund has returned 41% a year over the last 3 years on average.
Sure. And that wraps up the Raging Bull Awards for the straight performance over 3 years. We now go to our next category of Raging Bull Awards, risk-adjusted performance over 5 years. And the Best South African Equity General Fund on a risk-adjusted basis, the Raging Bull Award goes to
once again, the Counterpoint SCI Value Fund. So it's won on straight performance and on risk-adjusted performance. It's the fund's second award, and it returned an average of 14.7% a year over the 5-year period.
Fantastic. The best South African multi-asset equity fund on a risk-adjusted basis, the Raging Bull Award, goes to
The Griffin Prudential Fund. Griffin is another boutique manager based at the Tygerberg waterfront in Belleville. This fund is managed by Aubrey Duplessis and Ruben Beelders, and it returned an average of 10.9% a year over 5 years. Note that although other multi-asset funds achieved higher returns over that period, the Griffin Fund did it at much less risk.
the best South African multi-asset flexible fund on a risk-adjusted basis. The Raging Bull Award goes to
The Bateleur Flexible Prescient Fund. Bateleur Asset Management is based in Westlake, Cape Town, another Cape Town company, and its flexible fund is managed by Kevin Williams. The fund has returned 11.5% a year on average over 5 years for its investors.
And the Raging Bull Award for Best FSCA Approved Offshore Global Asset Allocation Fund on a risk-adjusted basis goes to
The Saracen IE Multi-Asset Strategic Fund. Saracen is a London-based investment firm. Its multi-asset strategic fund has returned 38.2% a year on average in US dollars over 5 years.
Fantastic. And that brings an end to the Raging Bull Awards for the funds, for both the straight performance over 3 years as well as risk-adjusted performance over 5 years. And now we come to the Manager of the Year Awards. Martin, tell me, how prestigious is this award for fund managers?
Well, you know, it's been going since 1997 was the first Raging Bull Awards. So it's built up quite a lot of prestige in the industry. It's the most comprehensive, although there are other awards for funds and fund managers, I would say it's the most comprehensive awards. And I think it's still really looked up to in the industry as being like the Oscars of the investment industry. So when we get to the managers and the managers of the year, these are the awards for a manager's funds over its entire portfolio.
For the Manager of the Year Awards, the Offshore Manager of the Year, the Raging Bull goes to
Melville Douglas. Congratulations. Melville Douglas is the offshore investment arm of the Standard Bank Group, and it achieved an average of 4 Plex crowns on its 3 qualifying funds.
Congratulations, Melville Douglas. Now, for the South African Manager of the Year. In third place is
Coronation Fund Managers. Congratulations. Coronation hasn't featured in the top 3 managers for a few years now, since 2018. So it's good to see them back. It had 19 qualifying funds and averaged 3.61 Plex crowns across its portfolio.
Then in second place for South African Manager of the Year is
My Plan. They were in second place last year. They're a small boutique asset management company, also based in Cape Town. They were Manager of the Year 2 years ago in 2020. My Plan had 8 qualifying funds with an average of 3.69 Plex crowns.
Thank you very much, Martin. And now, the South African Manager of the Year. The Raging Bull Trophy is awarded to
91, congratulations 91, which was previously Investec Asset Management. This is the second year in a row that 91 has won the South African Manager of the Year award, so it's a great distinction for them. It has 18 qualifying funds and they averaged a score of 4.24 Plex crowns. Congratulations once again.
Huge congratulations to our Raging Bull Award winners as well as our certificate winners for 2022. A huge congratulations once again to our Raging Bull Award winners and our certificate winners. Now, of course, an event like this would not be possible without the oodles and oodles of data needed to support it. Martin, who provides this data? How is it all put together?
Profile Data, a company in Joburg, provides all our financial data. So thank you very much, Profile Data, and their subsidiary PlexCrown Fund Ratings, which does the calculations for the risk-adjusted funds and the Manager of the Year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Martin Hesse, the editor of Personal Finance. And that brings us to an end of the Raging Bull Awards 2022. I have been Lance Witten. We will catch you next year.